Hey everybody, I'm Chris, and on behalf of my team, I'm going to wish you guys a great day ahead. My team members are Amina, Daniel, Heiko, Rosa, Sarah, Serene, Yvonne, and of course, myself. Our presentation today touches on a topic that is close to my heart. For the very fact that I've been through this system for over a quarter of my life, the criminal justice system, we shall present to you the policies which have shaped how we treated our prisoners back then and now. How the criminal justice system, specifically the corrections department, or what we know it as the prisons, evolved from a primarily custodial agency to one that focuses not only on the safe and secure custody of inmates, but more importantly, their rehabilitation and reintegration into society. I shall bring you on a quick tour along the timeline of our prison department, now known as the Singapore Prison Service, or SPS for short, while Rosa will tell you more about the goals, the values, the benefits, the services provided, and how they pay for it. Yvonne will expound on the SE factors, socio-economic factors, if you don't know it by now, causing the social issue. In this case, it is recidivism and its influence on policy development. Finally, Heiko will take you on a tour of 3 different prisons situated around the world and give you an in-depth appraisal of their perspectives in regard to the rehabilitation and reintegration of inmates and ex-offenders. So hang in there and don't fall asleep. When Singapore became a Crown colony in 1946, the Prison Department was instituted as a government agency to manage prisoners. In 1959, then President Devan Nair strongly recommended that the Prisons Department should shift its focus from custodial care to rehabilitation. Following this, in 1960 and 1961, the Pulau Senang settlement was started as an experimental rehabilitative facility for inmates, and the Bedok Reformative Training Centre was established as a centre for young male offenders between 16 and 21 years old to undergo reformative training respectively. The Singapore Corporation of Rehabilitative Enterprises, SCORE, now known as Yellow Ribbon Singapore, was established in 1976. It sought to enhance the employability of offenders by providing vocational training courses in prisons and DRCs, thus preparing them for the eventual reintegration into the workforce. In 1989, its course was set up by SCORE to cater specifically to the needs of discharged inmates by providing them with jobs and small business opportunities. The period of 1995 to 2003, the stage was set to make revisions to the Singapore Prison Service's mission and vision to focus on the contributions of prisons to society. In 1999, the term Captains of Lives was unveiled as part of SPS visioning exercise and transformation journey. The then vision statement stated that prison officers who were captains of lives would be instrumental in steering offenders to be responsible citizens with the help of their families and the community. The Prison School, Kaki Bukit Centre or KBC, was established to centralise all teaching resources and provide a conducive learning environment for inmate students. Its philosophy is school first, prison second. Since 2004 up to the present time, the SPS embarked on the pursuit of excellence in prison security and inmate rehabilitation. In 2004, the Yellow Ribbon Project YRP was launched to promote awareness, acceptance, and an inclusive society for ex-offenders. In 2012, the Psychological and Correctional Rehabilitation Division (PCRD) was formed to develop evidence-informed approach to inmates rehabilitation. And in 2014, the Community Corrections Command (COMC) was formed in August 2014 to oversee the rehabilitation, reintegration and supervision of inmates and ex-offenders in the community. COMC comprises of uniformed officers and civilian specialists who continue the work started during the in-care phase to inspire hope and change in the inmates and ex-offenders. In 2018, the launch of the Learning Prison Initiative, which is part of the Corrections 2025 Master Plan, reframed prisons as transformative places where inmates can acquire new skills and training, as well as self-reflect and chart meaningful plans towards better and crime-free lives. Since its inception in 1946, it is only in the last decade or so that the SPS started to adopt an evidence-based approach to the rehabilitation of inmates and truly fostered strong community partnerships and support for the reintegration of ex-offenders. The rate of recidivism has declined declined since then, with the lowest recorded rate of 20% in the year 2019, down from about 45% 2 decades ago. And with this, I'll hand over the time to Rosa. And let's go!
Thanks, Chris. Hi everyone, I'm Rosa. So now I'm going to present to you about the goals and values of the policy, the service provided, as well as the benefits. The goals include enforcing a secure custody of offenders for a safe Singapore and providing rehabilitation to help ex-offenders rebuild their lives so that recidivism rate will be lowered. This is also alongside community projects that helps raise awareness of the importance to give second chances to ex-offenders and their families and to generate acceptance in the community. Therefore, the three main core values are rehab, renew, and restart. Rehab means to be committed to rehabilitate inmates who desire to change, and for renew and restart to help inmates to be able to renew and restart their lives with the support from the community. The probation and community rehabilitation service is an option the court would consider for eligible ex-offenders to benefit from the rehabilitation and reintegration in the community rather than serving the sentence in the prison. The offender will be supervised by probation officer or volunteer probation officer between 6 months to 3 years, with a set of conditions the probationers need to comply with good conduct. Another main component will be the case management, not only with the probationers but also the family members, because family support is one of the main protective factors for the probationers' rehabilitation and reintegration. The probationers would also achieve reintegration through community service under the supervision. And there is a group mentoring program for youth probationers to receive positive guidance and support from mentors throughout the journey. So for Yellow Ribbon Singapore, it believes in beyond second chances and provides support in skills and career development for ex-offenders to enhance their employability in 3 areas. First, employer engagement by doing outreach to supportive employers for suitable vacancies and to be aware of the latest requirements from the employers and the industries, which can be helped in the next area. Skills training, where ex-offenders are trained in generic areas like workplace and digital literacy and occupational specific skill set. In the last area, career facilitation, Yellow Ribbon provides assessment, job profiling, and career coaching for the ex-offenders to explore their strengths and interests, then match them with suitable positions and guide them through. Besides employment, Yellow Ribbon acknowledges the importance of aftercare services for both ex-offenders and their families, so there's this care network, community action for the rehabilitation of ex-offenders, focusing on engagement and coordination with other SSAs or government agencies on aftercare services. Recently, the Parliament has passed the bill for a new scheme under the Prisons Act. The Employment Preparation Scheme, which allows eligible inmates to attend skills training, education, and even to work outside prison towards the end part of their sentence. This is to help ex-offenders equip themselves and to get meaningful and sustainable employment and to prepare them for smoother transitions towards the release. One of the main benefits is the reduced recidivism rate. In 2021, the recidivism rate for the 2019 cohort was reported to be 20%, which is the lowest ever for the past 30 years. This is attributed to the rehabilitation programs mentioned earlier, with increasing number of ex-offenders being placed in the community programs over the past years. The policies also help reintegrate the ex-offenders to the society through community services. They are tasked to serve the community through volunteer work such as packing and delivering food to the vulnerable groups. Some probationers share the positive experience that through these small actions, they are able to build relationship with the beneficiaries, to impact the lives of other individuals in need, and this let them gain much valuable experiences. The family sessions conducted by the probation officers also serve as a platform for the probationers and the families to communicate deeper. The probationers can open up to their families about the practical and the emotional struggles, and the families also feel that they can be more understanding and accepting. The services also helps the ex-offenders maximize their employability and potential for their goal of being gainfully employed, such that it helps them better reintegrate into the society, improve their financial situation and quality of life, and the family relationship as well. So for the methods of finance for this policy, the Probation and Community Rehabilitation Service is under MSF. As for Yellow Ribbon Singapore, it's a state board under Ministry of Home Affairs. And under Yellow Ribbon, there's this Yellow Ribbon Fund, which is the first national charitable fund for this purpose to serve the ex-offenders. It provides financial support for rehabilitation and reintegration programs and aftercare services. It also uses the fund to provide for the public awareness program. This fund is managed by the main committee and Singapore Prison Service and the corporation, which is appointed by the MHA. Okay, so that's all for my part. Now I pass the time to Yvonne for her sharing. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosa. Okay, hello everyone, I'm Yvonne. So today I'll be talking about the social economics factor for our ex-convict in their rehabilitation process. So have you ever wondered why our government is spending so much money and effort to rehabilitate this group of people? The truth is that people are still very wary of people with past records, and these ex-convicts find it very difficult to rehabilitate back into the society. Long term, this stigma will hinder the positive effectiveness of rehabilitation, employment, reconciliation with families, education, advancement, etc. So what happens thereafter? We have the Yellow Ribbon Project that raises awareness to the common people in giving a second chance to ex-offenders, inspiring the society to support their rehabilitation. This also takes place for ex-offenders with less severe crimes who have their criminal record spent if there is no re-offending in the next 5 years. With this, they are able to start afresh. In a lot of times, due to social stigma, ex-offenders face challenge in gaining employment due to hiring decision, discrimination, and might not achieve the job satisfaction due to the type of jobs that is available in the market. Usually, areas of employment that are less discriminative are of a lower wage, which has less favorable working conditions, such as long working hours, needing to do shift work, and, of course, lower pay. A lot of times, regulatory barriers prevent ex-offenders with criminal records to work in certain sectors, such as insurance, private car hire, security, etc. Hence, it is very important for vocational training, job coaching, and placement for these ex-offenders. Yellow Ribbon Singapore rallies employers to hire inmates on community-based programs such as Work Release Scheme and Employment Preparation Scheme. The agency provides and coordinates skills training, employment bridging, and job retention support with the aim of assisting inmates and ex-offenders to achieve successful reintegration and becoming contributing members to the society. Education also plays a very important role. Offenders who lack education when young due to financial or family issues, to an extent, suggest that offenders operate on a concept of immediate gratification, thus they engage in criminal activities or antisocial behavior. Being absent from school, offenders miss the chance to learn pro-social behavior like upholding the moral values of the society, which is very fundamental for crime prevention. Hence, academic programs are introduced to inmates who are qualified and motivated to improve their educational levels. They are given opportunity to continue their education and sit for national exams in prison school. With this education, offender self-esteem and confidence may increase over time, along with better job prospects and hope for reintegrating into the society, so to prevent reoffending. Education not just improve the behavior of the ex-offenders, they also instill good moral values into them, giving them proper coping skills. Long-term wise, religion program and services are also part of the key player in the rehabilitation process. With such values in place, inmates are better equipped to cope with the stress and find peace in understanding religion and the moral values behind religious teaching. That said, family support is a very important milestone in the rehabilitation process, At times, due to incarceration, some inmates experience strained family relationship as family members are unable to look past their conviction. However, without the family as the first line of support, ex-offenders often return to their negative peers for support and hence increase the risk of re-offending. This can result in a vicious cycle which repeated conviction and thus harder for reconciliation. Family resource centers are set up to support inmates and their families in their rehabilitation and reintegration process. Good family support is critical as it provides not just the physical and financial support, family also aid with the emotional and psychological support of the offenders. With this in place, it will greatly contribute to more successful rehabilitation. Home detention schemes are also introduced to inmates who are assessed to have low risk of reoffending and also good conduct in prison. If the family support is strong, they are considered to serve their remaining sentence at home through taggings and curfews. However, there is always a flip side. Without proper family support and stable accommodation due to past family conflicts, or financial reasons, they might end up rough sleeping on the street. Shelter services are introduced as an informal social support to provide temporary housing solution. With stable housing, ex-offenders are able to focus on their reintegration process instead of worrying just about their survival and unmet basic needs. With that, they might turn back to their peers for negative support. That said, there is always two sides to the coin. For ex-offenders without good family support or stable accommodation due to past family conflicts and or financial reasons may find themselves struggling, finding a place to sleep, finding a roof over their head. With that, shelter services is introduced as an informal social support to provide temporary housing solution for this group of people. With stable housing, they are able to meet the basic needs that is in life. They are able to meet the basic needs that is in need for their rehabilitation. As I have mentioned earlier, due to ex-offenders stigmatized and often ostracized by the society, there is a probability that ex-offenders end up in social isolation, which is very unfortunate. Without pro-social support to help offenders detest from crimes and successfully rehab into the society, their chance of re-offending increased. This is why befriending program is important as part of the rehabilitation program. Volunteer befrienders provide offenders with emotional and pro-social support during their term in prison and after they are released, guiding and supporting them in the journey. The offenders are also bridged into the befriender extended social network which connect them to the society. Actually, there has been a study done by the Singapore prison in September 2021, which reveals that offenders need supportive and caring environment to detest. Offenders think and behave according to what others perceive of them, and offenders hope others can recognize their effort for a change. Hence, it is very, very important for every one of us here to support and give them what they need to rehab. Thank you, everybody. So I'm done on my end. I will pass the time over to my teammate, Heiko.
Thanks, Yvonne. Hello, everyone. My name is Heiko, and I'll be doing the international perspectives. Alright, so we will be going through 3 different countries with 3 different approaches to incarceration, rehabilitation, and reintegration. So life behind bars is a key factor in an ex-offender's successful life beyond bars. So if the conditions that an offender experiences while in prison is unsatisfactory, deplorable, and maybe even insulting, he or she won't be in the right state of mind to face the world when they are released. These 3 countries' approaches have had far-reaching impacts on the affected groups, and their statistics serve as demonstrative evidence of their policies. First up is Norway, and its policies regarding offenders can be summed up in the word autonomy. Now, prisons in Norway focus on 3 core values, which are normality, humanity, and rehabilitation. What I'd like to focus on is the principle of normality, which dictates that life inside will resemble life outside as much as possible, and that offenders shall be placed in the lowest possible security regime. The Norwegian prison system's focus on rehabilitation and normalization extends to the emphasis on the family, where they have a father in prison program to encourage the strengthening of family ties, and instead of just hour-long visits like everywhere else, some Norwegian inmates even get to spend 24 to 48 hours with their respective families. So all of these create a basis for desistance among Norwegian prisoners and encourages them to be law-abiding citizens. It also reinforces the idea that the community is with them and that there is a place for them in the wider community. In terms of its effectiveness, Norway has one of, or if not the lowest recidivism rates in the world at below 20%. And this is because their time in prison isn't just spent staring at the wall, they're able to maintain and in some cases even fortify their family ties. The focus is on normalization, so it's restorative as opposed to being punitive. They also have the opportunity to upscale and go back to school. And an extreme example of this is in the case of Anders Breivik, the Norwegian serial killer and terrorist who murdered 77 people in 2011. He was sentenced to only 21 years in prison, largely because that is the maximum sentence in Norway. And then in 2015, while in prison, he was accepted into the University of Oslo to study political science. And now this year, after serving 10 years, he is able to request an appeal for parole. However, such luxurious conditions have obvious trade-offs, chief of which is the exorbitantly high cost of rehab. Norway's GDP per capita is 74,000 euros, but it spends double that amount, over 143,000 euros on one single inmate. And that cost is passed on to the general public, who pay 22% in income tax alone. Now up next, we are going to an almost polar opposite of Norway, and it might come as a surprise to some, but we're going to be looking at the US. American attitudes towards criminal activity have always been generally negative, and rightly so. However, public perception has been molded and somewhat skewed by the government's war on crime approach that has resulted in the practices of deterrence and incapacitation in US prisons. Just a side note, I'm sure most of us have seen our fair share of prison dramas or movies, such as Prison Break, Shawshank Redemption, and Con Air, to name a few. Now, these conditions that are portrayed in the movies are generally representative of the reality in most American prisons. They are Spartan, consist of a metal bed, metal toilet, and the guards and staff are punitive in their treatment of inmates. So this punitive approach, in which rehab takes a back seat, results in ex-offenders who are in a poorer state upon their release, where they are discriminated against in areas such as employment and housing, despite the presence of legislation that is supposed to serve them, such as the Second Chance Act of 2008 and the Supplementary Nutrition Assistance Program and Temporary Assistance for Needy Families. But, however, a punitive approach does have its benefits in that it is rather economical. Compared to Norway's 144,000 euros, the US spends only $33,000 or 30,000 euros on one inmate. That is a very significant difference. And this works because American prisons are usually understaffed, so a less hands-on, treatment-based approach to incarceration serves the authorities well. Furthermore, the US prison system is rather complex in that you have state prisons, then you have federal prisons, and then you have privately run for-profit prisons who are clearly not incentivized to guarantee the betterment of inmates. So the trade-offs are quite obvious and can be seen in the US recidivism rate standing at over 50%, which is one of the worst in the world. And now lastly, we'll take a look at a country that's more in the middle, very much like Singapore, and that is the United Kingdom. Just like Singapore, the UK has a strong commitment towards rehab, and the similarities are almost obvious when it comes to the subject of education. Singapore has, for example, the Tanah Merah Prison School, and also partnerships with Ngee Ann Polytechnic for the benefit of inmates' post-release preparations and aspirations. The UK also promotes something similar, covering basic education to vocational skills such as coding, IT and engineering through the Prisoner Education Service. The UK government also tries its best to assist in the re-entry of ex-offenders by assisting in housing and job matching. Ex-offenders are also issued a resettlement passport upon release. This passport consists of their CV, identification documents, bank account and contacts for support services in the community. The effectiveness of the UK's policies are rather decent, and the recidivism rate for 2020 was reduced to 24.1%. Now, the UK is known to many as a welfare state, if not the original welfare state. However, many people from both within and outside of the UK have often voiced oppositions to its welfare system, citing it as being unsustainable. Therefore, it is imperative that the UK adopts a proactive policy towards rehabilitation and reintegration. This means that the people leaving prison are more well adjusted, which means higher chances of them being employed, which translates to increased tax revenue for the government before finally resulting in reduced expenditure on social safety nets for such people. Now the trade-offs are pretty much a good and bad kind of deal in that the UK government is pumping in billions into its prisons, and compared to the US, the UK spends twice the amount, $66,000 on one inmate. However, as proven by its declining recidivism rate, the UK is on the right track. And that is all for my part. Now I'll be passing it on to Chris to wrap it up.
So there it is, our presentation. I hope you didn't fall asleep, because I'm gonna arrest you, I'm gonna charge you, convict you in a court of law, and sentence you to prison. Well, on a serious note, we have seen how our Singapore prison service take bold, transformative steps in helping our inmates and ex-offenders in their rehabilitative and reintegration journey. Let us all go beyond giving second chances to ex-offenders. Let us embrace them, empower them, so that they can all live their lives to their fullest potential. Do you agree with me? And this is Chris, checking out.